Coming live from Clamp Industries, it's Staring into the Abyss with your host, Matt Brandenburg, and...
Vitamin Mist, I've got my water gun ready. What about you?
Oh, you know I got my Super Soaker ready. And special guest...
Daron Kappauff. Sorry.
No, this is good.
We'll just put in a disclaimer. We practiced this.
Oh, yeah, we totally practiced. Rich is definitely not our linchpin and keeping us as a good host. But anyway, here we are with Daron Kappauff, and we are talking We Are Legend, a very, very fun. And you know what? Even though there's no Christmas in this, but it's sort of themed with a certain character that shows up around Christmas time, which was very exciting. I did have a complete blast. I love this idea of this mashup of Gremlins and I Am Legend. And I definitely have questions on, like, it feels like you leaned heavy on the Gremlin side and you then took the post-apocalyptic side in I Am Legend. I mean, there was no dog, right?
Yep, no dog.
I mean, I'm fucking thankful for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding?
It was bad
me?
enough.
I can't watch I Am Legend because of that.
So it's bad enough that
have.
we've got a bunch of teens and preteens.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's already like heartbreaking when they're like talking about not having a future. You don't want to have the dog in there.
Yeah.
No.
I don't. Did either of you read Richard Matheson story?
Pretty sure
No.
he has read it.
Okay.
I haven't read it. I've seen the movie, but I haven't. I haven't read the book.
So I read it before. I think I read it before seeing. I definitely read it before seeing the movie. I just can't remember if knowing the movie came out spurred me to read this. But anyway, the dog stuff is in there. But the way Richard Matheson does it, you're like spending pages on him trying to coax this dog to be his friend, and it's this slow, arduous process, and it's just really heartbreaking where he's like, there's another living thing. And literally, it's like the end of this chapter, like 3 words or 4 words. It just says the dog died a week later.
My God.
Yeah.
The payoff sucks.
I just remember reading it, being like, "Holy crap!" And then the movie, and I'm like, "I wonder how bad they're gonna do this dog thing."
I mean, they decided, they probably read it and they're like, nah, I mean, we can stretch it out a little bit. And like, we can make the fucking dog suffer. Everyone who loves the dog will hate us for it. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that movie with my family, and even though they know I cannot handle movies where the animals die, I was already whimpering when I saw the dog appear. I was like, no, God, no, not the dog. And they were like, if you don't stop, get out of the room. And I'm like, so basically, I was just in the corner, silently crying at the end.
Oh,
And they just gave me like death stares. They're like, they didn't give a shit. They're like, it's a movie, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's dark.
Yeah, it's
like, people don't understand. Even though I know it's a film, I know it's not real. My brain is still like giving me all the emotion nonetheless.
That means it's good, right? If it's affecting you emotionally.
Exactly.
Yes.
So true.
They're just stone cold killers. The people who don't do that.
Yeah.
And you're the horror writer, right?
Yes.
Amazing. Well, before we get into We Are Legend, we like to do our weekly rundown of good, bad, in between media consumption. It's been a couple weeks, it feels like, so we might have a lot to talk about. I only have a couple just because I think the first thing I'm going to bring up is the menu. I don't know if either of you have seen that.
I've heard of it, but I want to see it.
Okay.
Not familiar.
But I've heard it's a wild ride.
Yes. So for everybody, Ray Fiennes is in it. Anna Taylor-Joy's in it, and it's basically these group of people go to this island where Ray finds is this really famous cook, and they're going to eat this ultimate, like, super fancy meal and everything like that. And the trailers sort of tease you one way, as in you think it's going to be sort of this doesn't spoil it, so I can say it. They make it seem like, oh, it's gonna be a cannibal kind of deadliest game kind of thing where they're gonna hunt these people and eat these people. It's not that. It's a total just send up on food culture. You have two people who are these you have one person who's this world-renowned food critic, and then there's a magazine editor with her. Anna Taylor-Joy's partner, I'm not going to spoil that thing, but he's this huge food person. He absolutely loves Ray Fiennes' character. You have these three like bros that are just there.
There's John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo's in it as a like kind of tired actor, like a kind of fallen from grace actor. And so
was he playing himself?
I mean,
no offense to John Leguizamo. I love that guy, but that description was kind of like point.
I mean, he's getting his due now. I mean, he's back. He's doing stuff.
I'm really happy about that. Did you know that my husband loves The Pest?
Oh my gosh, yes, The Pest.
I hate that movie. It's so bad.
That was so long ago. I mean, he even had a TV show, Bugging Out. I don't know if you remember that, but
no,
that was a long time ago.
Don't know. Thankfully, my husband is not listening to this. Don't give him ideas.
Yeah, it was a 90s Fox like sketch comedy, Bugging Out. But anyway, the menu is kind of a send up on all these people who are obsessed with food, and then the weird cook that like he's at one point we get that he's famous for his bread, and instead of giving them bread for one of their courses, he gives them an empty plate with all the dips that would go with the bread, and said this is his interpretation of bread. And so, like, you know, it's like that. There's all these weird, like, food painting things that they do on it. And then he treats his like, his crew is kind of like this military kind of thing where, again, in the trailers, he claps his hand and they're always like, yes, chef, and all this stuff. So it was very fun on that aspect. The problem I have is there's a certain character that we are focused on throughout all of the movie, and that character doesn't serve a purpose, as in what we know the setup of this movie is going to be ends with that exact same setup. There's no change. There's no it's just like this thing, like it's the Indiana Jones joke. I don't know if you've heard that for Raiders of the Lost Ark, where
yeah, about Indy not being there.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the same thing. The main character we're following literally does not need to be in this movie, and because they do nothing to change it. And so it's very like sad to see that, because I was so excited for this, and all the things are really cool and interesting. But then, like, once we finished it, I was like, well, wait, they didn't need to even be there, because all the things that happened would have happened if they weren't there, and they didn't do anything to stop the things from happening. So that was sad, and it kind of toes the line of like, well, we're gonna be kind of horror-esque but not. So like, you get some really interesting, there's an end scene that's like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, it's gonna be this like really crazy thing, and then it cuts away. I'm guessing it's for the normies. They don't want to show what they could be doing. So like, it was okay, but you know, it's fun if you're a big food person, which I am not. So I didn't get 90% of it. You'd probably love it, but that was the menu. Let's just go around. So Vitme, what about you? What's one thing?
I finished 899.
Oh,
which
nice.
is on Netflix.
Yes.
And I just knew immediately that I would enjoy it, because it's from the creators of Dark. You know,
yes.
the German time bending series.
Yes.
And
it's on a boat.
Yeah, it's on a Titanic-esque boat. Because I thought at first it was Titanic, but then I was like, but wait, it happened in 1899. The Titanic sank in 1912, so that can't be right. Yeah. But for those of you who don't know what it's about, if I were to give it like a comps, it's basically like The Matrix meets in a boat, I guess, like on a cruise.
Weird.
Yeah. And it's about this woman. She's searching for her brother. 4 months ago, her brother went on a cruise that was on his way from England to America, and that cruise kind of basically just disappeared. So she went on. She was given an invitation to come on that cruise that she's in now, with the promise of finding answers about what happened to her brother. And along the way, the ship receives like a distress call. And so, of course, being in a ship, they kind of have to answer the call. So they kind of change the course and go to the place where this distress call is coming from. And it turns out to be from that ship that disappeared 4 months ago. But when they arrive, it kind of looks like the ship has been like sailing for many years. It's like it has algae on it and there's nothing there, like no survivors, there's nothing, like everything is in disarray and just they have no idea what the hell is going on. And then suddenly they find a boy locked up in a cabinet that is holding a black pyramid. And the minute they discover this boy, just everything goes to hell.
Almost sounds like Event Horizon on a boat.
Yeah. Basically, it's not gory at all. Which I mean, it's just dark. I can imagine they wouldn't go with the gory part. They go the mind bending part. Like every episode, you had to like continue on with the next one just to see what the fuck was going on. And I thought it was also really. A lot of people
I heard said it was. I said a lot of people that I've heard from said it reminded them of Lost, which I was kind of excited about.
Yes. Yeah. That's the other comp that I was going to say. Like The Matrix meets The Lost on a boat.
Nice.
So that's kind of like how you got around to it. And I also it was really interesting to see there were so many nationalities in it. So it was not only the woman, the main character, she's English. And the captain and most of the crew, they're German. One of the guys who was working shoveling coals, he's Polish. And there are 2 Chinese women. One of the Chinese women is masquerading as a geisha. I thought that was interesting. Like, do you know Japanese? And then in one of the episodes, she had a vinyl record that was playing Japanese phrases, and I'm like, all right, then you are keeping to that part. And then there was on the commoner deck, there was a whole group of Danish people.
Interesting.
And there was also 2 Spanish guys. One of them was actually Portuguese, and 2 French people.
Huh.
So that was I thought was really interesting is that they none of them understood each other. Like they all spoke the different languages.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. The only thing that maybe a little bit got on my nerve, because when they met and they were trying to speak to each other, they each spoke in their own, their own languages. They didn't use any body language. And I'm like, guys, you're not going to get your point across if you don't use your fucking hands. It's like, this is why there's probably no Italians there.
Give it away.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It just got on my nerves. Maybe because when I'm talking, I use my hands a lot.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, use your goddamn hands if you want to say what you want to do. Just mimic, act. You're actors. Act.
Hey, it's tricky.
There There was one time where one of the Danish guys did use body language, and I actually almost screamed, "Hallelujah! Thank you for that."
So were they all just robots and just kept their arms straight down?
Well, I mean, no. There was phenomenal acting, and there was this one scene, and I'm not going to spoil, that was like horrifying. And they did manage to, when they were seeing with this particular scene happen before them, they used body language, and they were like, freaking out and everything. So it's just, as soon as the kid shows up, just everything goes to hell, and they're all trying to discover what is going on. And it's just the ending. Like I had a theory about what was happening, and my theory was correct.
Nice.
This happened when I watch a lot of this shit. But the ending took me by surprise. I did not expect the ending, so it was pretty good. But like right at the end, you kind of suspected it, but then it still took you by surprise. You were like, "Whoa, oh, interesting." And it kind of left you with maybe there will come a second season, but at the same time, I felt the ending was satisfying.
Well, it is Netflix, so probably won't be a second season.
Yeah.
I mean, it was here in Iceland at least. It was it was in top for like the top seed, so maybe.
We'll see. Fingers crossed.
See. Just depends on how expensive it was to make.
Right. And just how they feel.
I mean, Dark got 3 seasons, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
That's good.
It needed every single one of those seasons, too, to tell that story.
Exactly. Like, if you leave it with this, I will kill you.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I just saw, Midnight Club, they canceled that. And so who knows? Oh, wow. Yeah, well, and it's interesting. They just announced it probably earlier this week, and Mike Flanagan did go online and explain what season 2 would have been, which was a pretty cool just to see, as opposed to
I think also Neil Gaiman, he was just gnawing at his fingertips just to see if they would get season 2, and then he was went immediately on Twitter "Oh, we got a season 2, thank God."
Yeah, right? Oh man, it's so crazy. I think I might have talked about this, but there's a whole reason why they randomly cancel stuff. It doesn't make sense, but
I know.
It's anyway.
It's stupid.
It is.
I think it is because they are what also factors into it is that they're competing with a whole slew of other streamers.
Right. Yeah, which is gonna be tough for sure.
I did finish one other story though, which is actually quite a feat for me.
Oh yeah, what'd you finish?
Yeah, I finished The Vessel.
The Vessel. Wait.
By Adam Nevill.
Oh yes. Oh, how was that? Was it very Adam Nevill-y?
Yes. Well, the thing is, I haven't read anything by Adam Nevill, so this is my first, and I'm glad it was a short one.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything against his writing. He has amazing, beautiful prose. It's it was written so beautifully. And there were times, I consider myself pretty fucking good at English, but there were some words there that I was like, I have never heard of this one.
Yeah.
And I had to go on Thesaurus and this is what it means. Okay. So it was really, I was blown away by the prose. The prose was amazing. The story is lackluster.
Yeah. He's tricky. I've read a couple of his things, and we've covered a couple of his things here. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just one of those. They're not all 100% hits, but it's I think what was the one I can't remember which one we covered of his, and I'm just looking to see if I can spot it. But
there was one book that you read.
Yeah, I read Last Days recently.
Yeah.
And I really like that one. It dealt with cults and everything. And then I did The Ritual, which Rich really liked. And I liked too a bit, but I think because I saw the movie first, I liked what they did with that. And then I think it was The Reddening is the one that we read for the podcast. And we liked it, but it was long and slow at parts. So.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like it was, and I think it also kind of has to deal with me. Like, I haven't read that many, how should I say, almost like ghost or possession stories.
Okay.
Like I haven't read them. I've seen so many of these films, so I kind of felt a little bit disconnected from it. Like I couldn't find the fear that a lot of people were saying on Goodreads that they scared the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And I was just reading and I was like, nah, I'm just too caught up in the prose. I don't feel the fear.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like the story went in a whole other different direction that I had anticipated.
Okay.
So for me, that's why I was like, "Ow!" It went like this. But and then I was like, "It's good," but it's just I pictured something completely different.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit disappointed by it.
Yeah, well, it happens. I mean, again.
I mean, like I said, I didn't hate this book, not at all. Like I said, I loved the fucking prose, and I'm like, damn, can I take classes from you?
Right.
But
I mean,
and he managed to bring like a good atmosphere. Like I did catch like the creepy atmosphere. I love that, but seeing this fear, I was like, nah, I can't see it. Because he mentioned in the afterthought that this was his first screenplay.
Oh.
So this was meant to be a screenplay first, and then he changed it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and as I read it, and there were some scenes which I was like, yeah, I can definitely see this as a film. This is more. I think it's more deserving for a film than as a book, in my opinion.
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe it would have played better on screen.
I've started Andor, and it's so good. I'm just really amazed how the TV shows are so much fucking better than the movies.
Right. Well, it's like a combo of they have more room to expand a story and tell a story, and
yes,
and they kept George Lucas away.
Yes, I think that's like, and J.J. Abrams away.
And J.J. Abrams. And what I'll say with this one, and no offense to all the other Star Wars shows, they kind of kept Jon Favreau away, which was nice.
Oh, you're not a fan of that?
I like him, but after watching Andor and you go back to Book of Boba Fett and...
I mean, Book of Boba Fett is like the least best of the series, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, I love Robert Rodriguez, but I don't know what he was totally thinking with this. And
no.
Just the way, like, in Andor, the way they do the flashbacks to certain things shows like there is a smart way to do it, as opposed to Book of Boba Fett, where they're like, well, we're just gonna do random flashbacks, and instead of telling the story from that point.
Yeah, it's like it felt more linear in Andor than it did in Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem with Boba Fett, it was supposed to be a movie. It was supposed to be a 2-hour movie, and then they had to spread it out over whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 episodes.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I did enjoy Kenobi though. Like I enjoyed that way more than Book of Boba Fett.
I did too, but it definitely felt like you could have cut the first 3 or 4 episodes.
Oh yeah, exactly. Most definitely. But I also love the fact like there are so many people that are asking like, is Andor worth it? And I'm like, if you don't want to see any of the Jedis or anything like that, you can totally watch this.
Yes, that was one of the big things. Like, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm currently rereading the High Republic books right now because I just got the last one. So I love Star Wars, but like Andor is like, it's not weighed down by the Star Wars stuff.
It doesn't mention any of the Force, no Jedis, and I just love that fact. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, it's just this really good story about rebellion and like joining it.
How horrible the fucking Empire is. Are you fucking kidding me?
God, I know. So have you gone to so you said what episode are you on?
I just finished episode 6.
Okay, so you saw the prison and everything.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And that was horrifying. I cried.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was so unfair. I was like, nope. And even though I knew it would happen, I was like, I saw the guy and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I still felt super sad. I was like, this is not fair. He had like 2 days till retirement, man.
Yeah.
And the cast is also amazing.
Yes.
Like Diego Luna is amazing as Andor. Like he plays perfectly.
Yes.
And Stellan Skarsgård is also so good.
Totally.
And then I saw Andy Serkis and I'm like, yes, put him in more stuff because that guy is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, he is. Oh man, just wait.
Exactly. After episode 6, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get mad, Serkis. Oh, I can't wait.
Oh god, it's so good. Yeah, it's just. I mean, everything about it was just, it's such a good show. I was so happy to get in there and watch it. And yeah, it's awesome. I loved it so much.
That's good. But if you guys haven't watched Inside Job, you need to get on that quickly.
Inside Job. Did you talk about that before? That sounds really familiar.
Yeah. Okay. They just had season 2 put on Netflix, and I so recommend this. It is so good. Especially because if you enjoyed Gravity Falls,
yes,
Alice Hirsch is the producer of this.
Oh,
so you definitely, as you watch it, you see this has Alice Hirsch written all over it.
Okay,
and it's amazing. Like Christian Slater is in this, and he's so funny. He plays the main character's dad, and it's just like the best thing ever. He's so funny.
Oh my gosh, I am down.
So basically, if you guys don't know what Inside Job is, it's about this girl, Reagan, who is working at a company called Cognito, which is basically, the shadow people who are running the world.
Okay.
Or at least one of the shadow people. They're actually rivaling against the Illuminati, and it's hilarious. So they're up to all kinds of shit of trying to run the world in the shadows, but failing miserably at it.
Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing.
Yep, it's so good. And they have like, there's this one character when I just look at him, and it's basically Fry from Futurama, but just like in a suit and being this total yes man. And I was like, this is amazing. I love this.
Oh my God. All right, I am down. I've been looking for a new show. We caught up with Mythic Quest on Apple TV and loved it, but now that we're caught up, we need something else. So
this like I said, if you enjoy like animations and Gravity Falls and just black humor and everything, this is definitely something people need to check out.
Amazing.
I'm so happy they managed to do a season 2. I was like, if they don't do a season 2, there's something wrong with them. Oh, seriously, because animated shows are so good.
Oh, I agree. I'm 100% on board for animated shows. Darren, should we?
Yes.
Let's give this a whirl. What have you've watched and or seen or read recently?
Well, you guys already kind of covered it. I've been watching Andor. I think I'm the same place that you were. Episode 6. I finished episode 6.
Yes.
And yeah,
you were heartbroken by that episode, right?
I mean, yes and no. Like I kind of expected most of it.
Yeah, okay, I guess, but still.
Just wait.
Yeah. I know. It is really good, and the thing that I really kind of like about it is that it works just like Rogue One, but in reverse.
Yes.
Because Rogue One is really you were talking about how a lot of the shows are just so immersed in the Star Wars universe, and I feel like Rogue One is, but in an entirely different way. It really, you really get to understand, the rebellion and the people in it.
And I also love the fact that they added like the whole lot of bureaucracy behind it.
Yes.
Because I was like, yes, because how to run an empire like this tyrannical empire, you need bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other things I really liked about it is it's subtle, but the juxtaposition of the Empire on Coruscant. All the rooms are like sterile white.
Yes.
It's like your 2001, sort of space story.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you think about what the Empire looked like in the movies, like Star Destroyers. Everything's black. It's just everything's dark. So it kind of I think it kind of talks to what they want people to see and how they actually are. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, and I just love it. Like, one thing I picked up on it, and again, like I said, I was reading High Republic, and they kind of cover this too, is how like the Emperor like made his bureaucracy to be all competition. So none of them are working together. They're all just trying to compete each other, and it like kind of shows this like internal like decay of where if they all were working together, it would have been really easier for them to do this. But like super dork talk of like how the Sith are always kind of, it's two and it's always pitting people against each other. It's interesting again, just to kind of see that how this front is not all together.
Yeah, for sure.
But and I loved like, sorry, but just the scene of Cyril when he has to go when he gets that job at, I don't know, whatever the numbers job is he has, and it's just this like room full of desks, and they're all just kind of like cogs in a machine. It's like, oh, this is great.
And then I also loved, like, I love his journey.
Yes.
Like his journey, like we get so many journeys in like Andor. There's not just Andor, it's just everyone else. Like you get the journey of the Empire woman, I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
And then we get Cyril, and then you also kind of lean into Marva. I love Marva, by the way. She's awesome.
Oh.
Like if you haven't watched Harry Potter, this is the actress who played Petunia.
Right?
Like the aunt that hates Harry Potter. And I'm like, oh, you can act. You're so good.
Yes.
And there's so many journeys that you're just like looking into, and you're like for the Empire people, you're not exactly, you're not rooting for them, but you understand their journey.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And I love that.
Yeah, it works a lot like Rogue One in that way, in that I mean, that's not his show either, or his movie, rather.
Yeah.
It's Jin's, and even then, it still focuses a lot on him and, all the various characters, and you kind of get their whole story in a truncated form.
I actually squealed when I saw the K-robots.
Oh yeah, yes.
I squealed. I was like, no, are we gonna get a scene where they meet? I was
like, if they do not do that in season 2, it's a complete waste. But I don't know how
be a travesty.
I think they have to.
They have to, because that like Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars film, and just that chemistry with the robots, I just like, I love them. Usually in any sci-fi, I'm anti-robot because like Terminator kind of scarred me for that. It's like, I think they're gonna kill us all. But then each and every fucking time I watch a Star Wars film, I always like root for the robot, and I'm like, if the robot dies, I am ruined. So I need this. I need this meeting with them.
Yeah. I think they're gonna have to, just based on a couple of the articles I've read. They're talking about how the story isn't going to end in season 2. The story actually ends in Rogue One. So you're supposed to watch Rogue One afterwards, and it'll be a different experience.
Oh, nice.
So if they're going to go all the way up to the movie, they have to show them getting together. Like
I am actually also waiting to see Donnie Yen again.
Yeah. Oh gosh, right.
Because that guy was my favorite in Rogue One. I was like, a blind fucking Jedi? Yes, please. So yeah, I love that we all love Andor.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Did you have anything else?
I haven't really been watching anything else. I'm pretty much one at a time with the limited free time I have.
Right.
I have been reading Stephen King's It for the first time.
Oh, nice.
How's your experience with it?
I mean, I like it. I have issues, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I'm thinking from a 2022 perspective. He could not have written this book today.
Nope.
No.
He's writing it.
He would have to rewrite a lot of shit.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting, but I'm trying to like put that aside to follow the story and not think about it too much. But
yeah,
it's good. It's probably
how is he like? Does he? I'm assuming you've seen the films.
Not the new ones. I wanted to finish the book first. So I saw the original back in the day, the miniseries.
With Tim Curry. I mean, he is awesome in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But did it like when I watched it, I didn't find Pennywise to be, with Tim Curry, I didn't find him that scary. I just found him kind of hilarious. So and I haven't read it, so I'm just asking, like, does he kind of bring forth that dreadful feeling, or is he scary?
Yeah, I mean, it's creepy. Like when he shows up, he's not really in it a ton.
No.
You just see bits and pieces of him here and there.
I do enjoy that though, because that adds up to the creep factor.
Yeah, it's definitely creepy. My biggest issue, other than some of the contextual stuff, is just, and this is issue I have with King all the time, is just he's so wordy. Like, I'm just like, this thing is 1,100 pages, and it could easily be trimmed down to probably 500 or 600 and not miss any of the story.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
Isn't that also like this might just be me assuming this, but wasn't it at the time, like they had to go by word count, like they had to pad it up?
I don't think that recent. I think that's more like Dickens. He was he was earning based on the word. I mean, King writes like that, but I don't think that.
Yeah, and I feel like by the time that it came out, he was such a big name that like he wouldn't have to do he could just put stuff out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And so basically no editor wants to tell him like, hey, King, so there's a lot of words here. Could you maybe trim it?
I ended up skimming quite.
I can definitely understand that. Like if you don't get to the point, really, it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a scene pretty early on with whichever character I forget is like the hypochondriac who has asthma.
Yeah.
And there's like a 4-page description of his medicine cabinet.
Oh my God.
4 pages.
It goes bottle by bottle, shelf by shelf across the entire medicine. And I'm just like, why? Like what is this?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is it going to be important to the plot? If not, no.
Like, I get that he's a hypochondriac. I don't need you to like literally explain to me every single medication he's taking and why.
And it was made here by this doctor. And this doctor lived here. It
was manufactured in Taiwan, which started the rebellion in China.
So I read that like in high school. So now that you're reading it now, how does it feel like? Because it's interesting, like, you're in high school, so you kind of lean towards the kids, but are you leaning more toward the adult story more? Or?
No, I think both. I definitely like both. I don't know. I'm only halfway through, so it might change once I get a little farther in.
When you finish it, like 2 years from now,
it's probably going to be the rest of the years with the times I get to read. So.
Yeah, didn't you say it was like 1,100 pages?
Yeah, it's
this would be the death of me.
Oh, seriously,
I probably wouldn't even finish it on my deathbed.
Yeah.
there's a couple of his works where I'm like, I kind of want to reread them just because it's been so long. But then, yeah, I'm like, I can't afford the time to do that.
Yeah.
I'm
It's like
really
I got like Empire of the Vampire book for Christmas, I think 2 years ago. I did not expect it to be 700 fucking pages. So if I would probably, I don't know, give it to someone who can read it faster than me because I probably won't. And he, I think I've heard like with Jay Christos that he also has this wording problem with like Stephen King. So I'm like, great, I'm gonna be skimming if I end up reading this.
King is so interesting to me because he can censor himself, or not censor, edit himself, I guess is a better, although he probably could censor himself from this book a little bit. But like his shorter stuff is fantastic, like his short stories, and it's so weird to me.
I know it's so weird. I agree with you because I've read like a lot of his short stories, and they always go to the point.
Yeah. So you can definitely do it.
Just I don't know, and I feel like that era, because I think that was right around when like The Stand came out. I'm trying to think of a couple other ones and even The Stand's interesting because I feel like that, because the version, I mean, like, and now we all have the full version, but I feel like it was edited at one point, so like, or it was shorter, I should say. So I don't know. I feel like he just at that time really liked to hear his voice, and so he just went to town.
Yep.
He definitely goes to town.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have one quick one, and then we can get into We Are Legend. Another reason I really want to bring this up is because I feel like she's somewhat of a newer author, and I feel like people need to check her out. And it's Hiroko Oyamada. And the book, or novella, I should say, this is the exact opposite of it because this was less than 100 pages. It's called The Factory. And she is she writes very weird, and it's not horror, though it could be horror if you look at it a certain way, but it's just these really weird stories. The Factory it follows these three people who get a job at this factory in Japan, and the factory is so large, it's basically a city where they have like a river running through the middle of it. There's a huge bridge that you can't even see across the other side that you can walk across to get to the other part of the building factory. Everyone lives on the property. There's a million restaurants and all this stuff. So it's this giant factory. 3 people work there, and all the 3 jobs are absolutely pointless. So one of the characters, her job is to shred paper. And that's literally it. She gets paper and she feeds it into a shredder machine. The guy, one of the men's jobs is to edit documents, but the documents make no sense and have literally have nothing. And he might get the same document back and have to edit different things of it. And they tell these different crazy little things that are happening. This other guy who is like it's not herbologist, but he's like a plant scientist, and they hire him to figure out how to make the factory green. And the first step is to grow moss on the roof, but he knows nothing about how to grow moss on a roof. And like he asks, he's like, will I get help? Is there somebody that can teach me how to do this? Is there a timeline? And they say, no, it's fine. Just for your first, time here, just walk around and collect moss and figure out what the moss is. And so it just goes from there. It like you kind of see their daily lives, and there's weird animals that grow on this factory, or grow within the land of this factory, but they're not like super bizarre. They're just different. So there's like certain birds that only live here, and they just sort of make new birds. There's no real explanation on how, and it's not through normal bird making. They just sort of appear. there's these little lizards. They're called they're called dryer lizards that live next to all the laundry machines, and they lay eggs and they climb onto the dryers. There's these weird rat things that live everywhere, and they get really big, and they're not aggressive. They're just live everywhere. And so it's just this really bonkers, wacky story about this place. And just like where does your factory life end and where does real life begin, and like what's happening here, and nobody has any idea of what this place makes. They make like everything, but then they also make nothing, because it's just you're never really finding out what's happening. So it's just this really weird, bizarre look, and it keeps you enthralled the entire time because you're like, what is happening? So you want something a little different, Hiroko Oyamada is The Factory. She just had a new one come out. It's something, I can't remember. The title is really wacky. I can actually look it up here real quick. But it's these 3 stories, Weasels in the Attic. And it's 3 stories around, or similar concept of 3 characters that are all sort of tied to aquariums and selling of fish. And again, there's weird fish in there, and there's weasels in the attic, and then there's somebody who loves fish and all this stuff. So definitely worth checking out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, all right. With that, let's talk a little bit about some
Goblin apocalypse.
Yeah, I was gonna say you called them coladas, I think.
Kamalas.
Kamala.
That's fair.
I thought it was interesting that they, like, the genome that they had was like, oh, so you decided to put like the cutest thing that you could possibly find, and then splice it with the most deadliest thing in the world.
Yep.
Because have you seen a fucking Komodo dragon run? It's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
And did you know they eat corpses? Like, they sniff it out. They can find the smell of blood. Like, if there's a woman on a period on the island, they're advised to get the fuck out of there.
Oh my God.
Because Komodo dragons will find them.
Holy crap. I did not know that.
I didn't know that. No.
Well, this has been your animal trivia for the day, for the week.
It's probably
like,
good
this
we
has
didn't
stayed
know
with
that.
me since I knew that. And I'm like, yep, not going to the island there anytime soon.
It definitely would have made your story it a little more different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can always edit it.
Know that at the time.
You can always edit it if you want to make him a whole lot of more creepy and dark.
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, it's already pretty dark.
Yeah, it is fucking dark, man. Jesus.
All right,
like,
so
don't let Kiss think this. Like, seriously.
Yeah. So you at the beginning, Tracy does a very good introduction on where this came from. So I don't know if we need to go into too many details, but maybe if you want to, just for listeners who haven't read this yet, give us just a little taste of where this mashup happened.
So, if you read our first book, it talks a lot about how we sort of came together through Twitter, and that was a lot to do with Laura Hightower talking, some joke thread on Twitter, and the book just sort of came out of that. And then, Ian and I like writing together so much, like, well, let's keep doing it. And there was just so many things we could do. So we put it to a poll on Twitter and basically just asked everybody, what 2 things would you like to see mashed up? And we got a ton of ideas, which I wrote all of them down. And we ended up picking Tracy's, which was Gremlins and I Am Legend. And that, as they say, is that. Like, it just kind of went from there.
So how much Gremlin research did you do?
I've definitely seen Gremlins. I did rewatch watch the first one again right before we started, just for the hell of it. I didn't really need it for reference, but just kind of for fun.
Yeah. And you realize how cartoonish it was.
Well, the second one is way more cartoonish than the first. The first one is actually kind of dark.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's a few scenes I think in the book that ended up getting cut that were a little bit of an ode to the second one because it was a little silly. It really wasn't the story we were telling, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to keep it.
So you didn't want to put in the Lady Gremlin?
Yeah. There's a scene in the book currently where one of the main characters stumbles upon a grocery store, and there's a meat locker, and that was a very different scene the first time. The gremlin in there was more of like he was wearing a butcher's apron and glasses. It was just something you would have seen in the second movie
too. Yes.
yeah. He's like sharpening his knife on a whatever. It was fun, but it didn't really fit.
It didn't fit the overall tone, didn't it?
Yeah.
No.
Like you were like, nah, we want it dark, man. Dark shit.
Yeah.
It's like, let's give this kiss nihilism.
Oh my gosh. This so reading that introduction and then just knowing where, obviously knowing the two that you're going for, I had one thought in my head as I started reading it, but it being kind of goofy, fun Gremlins thing happening, but very, very quickly you told my brain it's not that.
Yeah, it is definitely not that.
We've had other authors on that are kind of where we've read the stories where it's like co-authored. So it's always interesting to kind of figure out how what you both did to make this one thing. How what was the process? And again, I wasn't on the earlier one, so I don't know if you already answered that question, if it was the same process.
It was actually different. So for Rex, we had a very sort of uniform chapter trade. He started it. He wrote the first chapter. I had no idea what he was going to write. He sent it to me.
And then you kept going on and on, like chapter by chapter, right?
Yes. Yeah. So for this one, as soon as we started, we were kind of like, let's just kind of do what we, write as much as you want, especially if you kind of see part of the story happening. Because it just sort of started happening, I guess, on its own. Like I'd write a chapter, and I'd send it, and he'd be like, "Hey, this should actually be 2 or 3 chapters." So then we would break it up, and then he might write 2 or 3 chapters. And then we just, at the end, we each do an edit pass through it where we try to smooth the voice to sound like it's one author.
Okay.
So he'll do an edit and add E flourishes, and then I'll do an edit and tone those down, and then add some of my own, and we just kind of we have pretty similar style already, but it's not as difficult as some people might think if you're cognizant of it.
I mean, I could definitely see both of your styles in there. But I still appreciate the fact that you managed to still keep it within the point of view of a preteen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think that was such an interesting take on both a Gremlins type of story, but then also I think the bigger, for me, the bigger story was just them dealing with that kind of life and that issue. And I think, so I really appreciate that, especially with, oh my goodness, their original leader, which was Charles. Yeah, I knew it ended with an L, not with the G where I was going. But I really liked the way like one you kind of set him up, it is like, well, he's the oldest and he's a male, and you do like this really good look at like, well, we're kind of falling on the old time thought and it should be new time, but like even as that teen, he was like, I have no idea what to do. We all we can do is the best we can, and it's just like that's right. You know, he's not, from what we see in the story, he's not like hardcore like I'm the alpha or anything. He's just like, I don't know.
And it's just like, it's realistic because again, these are kids. Like they don't know what the fuck they're supposed to do. They're supposed to look at the adults and like, "Hi, protect us, please."
Yeah.
But then there are none, and they're like, "Fuck! What the? How would adults do it?"
Yeah.
and they're play acting like adults essentially.
Yeah,
they are.
And I think for listeners, if you haven't read this yet, it did come out in September, if I remember correctly.
End of October.
End of October. All right, so it's been out for a little bit, but so if you haven't read it, I guess right from the start you should read it. But where it's set up, I think, is really interesting. As in, it's kind of set up at this. I don't know. I'm going to call it a smart camp. Yeah. So
essentially, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a summer camp for very gifted, intelligent children, which I think is such a awesome place to set it up because and you pull on all their strengths and not strengths of what they do. So like we have Kate, who's the kind of science person, which at the very beginning of the story, so this won't spoil it. She creates I almost said
Widgets.
Gizmo. Not Gizmo. It's Widget.
It's not Gizmo.
Not Gizmo.
Definitely not.
So like, but that shows us like, okay, she's got that kind of mentality in that area, and Charles, our math person, and so, but anyways, what that's showing us is like, okay, they're falling on their strengths when they can, but like they don't know. I mean, except for Wilma, they're not used to this kind of world and like having to survive.
I still find it kind of interesting that she was put into this camp. And like, what was her gift besides from being from a prepper family?
I know I was going to ask that too, and I didn't know if we were supposed to know or just she was there.
She's an artist, which was kind of the weird, the weird thing for the juxtaposition for her. She
was definitely an art. Oh, go on.
No, just say at the very beginning, she's they have her making walls out of paper, just because she can create stuff is their mentality. But she'd probably also be the first person to say she doesn't belong there.
Yeah. I was gonna say she was definitely an artist with the profane language.
Yes.
Yes.
Aside from the obvious name Stripe, was there any did you have any inspiration from existing characters for the people's names?
Well, Phoebe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kate and Phoebe.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking Wilma. For some reason, I just kept thinking of Wilma from Scooby-Doo, and I'm like, oh, she's
no. So E technically created Will, so I'm not sure where he got the idea.
Yes. Okay.
That kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of this makes sense now.
But let me temper that by saying the second chapter, right? That's her chapter. I read it and I'm like, how in the world am I going to write this character?
Yes.
It was just, the first chapter.
You just had to imagine a whole lot of anger.
Yeah.
Well, what ended up being funny is that I was when I got to her first chapter myself, I was like, I'm just going to do it. And after I wrote it, I was like, okay, I want to write all of her chapters. It's phenomenal. And interestingly enough, I did write most of her chapters. So as much of it as you think is E, it's not.
Oh,
you always throw us on this. This is exactly the thing when we were writing, when we were reading and talking about Rex. This is the exact same thing, Darren. Nice job.
Yes,
that's amazing. Well, and you make her such a complicated and interesting character that you love to hate, but then don't.
Yes.
But then you love.
She's basically Sean from Walking Dead. No, Shane. It was Shane. Not Sean. Yeah. Shane. Yeah. I pictured like a female Shane, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, to an extent. Well, I think she says it in the book. She is essentially the Thanos of her own story.
Right? She did say that. She's like, yeah, I'm the villain. Woo.
Yeah, like she's the villain, but she's also trying to do what she thinks is right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
I did like the fact that there wasn't only the goblins weren't the only threat. It was also themselves. Basically, mostly Wilma and Stripe.
Yes. Yeah. Which was like it was funny reading it because up until the certain point, I didn't think Stripe was going to be as hardcore as she turned out to be.
No, me neither. I thought she was just going to be the voice of reason.
Yeah,
and then you basically just flip that up. And I was like, oh shit, you guys, she's unhinged.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we were trying to talk about kind of the same thing that you guys were talking about with Charles. Like all of a sudden she's thrust into this leadership role.
Because she became the oldest after he went down.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert.
I thought it was interesting that you managed to, even though they were all gifted, they all came from horrible family backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
I know that was
like
which
the family background with Stoney that just broke my heart. I know because, well, I'm being like, living here in Iceland, and having this kind of like equal equality here, and like we don't treat the LGBTQ community like this. It's actually kind of getting worse now, but I'm kind of like feel that this is and it's horrifying to say this is a norm in America. So I was like, is this like I just find it horrifying that these, like, especially with what happened with Stoney, that this might actually be a reality for a lot of children.
I mean, it's definitely a reality. I don't know that it's I wouldn't say it's the norm, but
okay.
It's not
a reality.
You wouldn't be surprised if you heard a similar story here. I mean, you'd be surprised because people, but yeah.
Well, and like
it's definitely reality.
What's interesting and maybe not just for Stoney, but for how the story, what you both did for the story and tying it back to our Star Wars discussion. The flashbacks work really well in this, in that they get like the way you set up certain things. Like, so we get Kate / Widget's background throughout the story, and we get like Stoney remembers, and like, or we get the back of initial apocalypse time, and how you do the month jump back and everything like that. I think that worked really well, tying it into what was currently happening. So like, again, just to tie it back to a very earlier discussion we were having, I think that was a really cool concept. And again, to go with Stoney, and that it helped explain what they were thinking and what they were going through at that moment, which I think was a Wilma situation that maybe we won't spoil just yet. But so I really appreciated that jump back and forth. I mean, and it wasn't like, for listeners, it wasn't like a jarring jump back. It like makes sense as we're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not many of them.
I should say that too. It's not like every other chapter or anything like that. It's just where it needs to be.
There's really only a handful of actual flashbacks, and those are all from Kate. And then you get people reflecting, but there's only a handful of actual flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. So which I appreciate it. I thought it worked really well with what was happening, and they show us a little bit before what was happening. So I thought that was really good. What I also really was digging in this is, so we have the looming presence of the goblins, but it seems like they're, and I mean, you even said it, we're more focused on this kind of internal struggle with the kids, where we always know the goblins are kind of in the background. Did you kind like, what was your kind of thoughts on that? Did you want to keep the goblins in the background? Did you kind of think of like, or was there an earlier time when they were front and center all the time?
No, they weren't ever really front and center. I think it's, thinking about the We Are Legend, or the I Am Legend rather, aspects, and how that sort of ties into, I guess, I think it's zombie stories, even though that one's not technically zombies. It's that idea that the zombies aren't the worst thing out there. It's the people you're with, which isn't really in I Am Legend because he's by himself, but it was kind of taking that, and you get what I'm saying, like calling back to the to that idea. So they were always sort of in the background. And then when we found pretty quick, if we focus on them too much, it did start becoming kind of silly, and that really wasn't the tone.
Yeah. I mean, but you definitely, even for what we have of them, they have a lot of character.
Yeah.
Just like
they really do. They do shine. Like each and every one of them, like they have their own distinct personality, and you can definitely see, even though you don't put a lot of emphasis on the like how they look like in the story, you still manage to like visually picture them in your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are definitely vicious every time. That we were talking a little right before, I think even before you jumped on, and I don't think this is a total spoiler just because of, again, talking about Walking Dead and everything like that. But I appreciate you had no qualms killing people off pretty fast.
And no one was safe. Like we said that at the beginning, and I don't know that people really understood what we meant by that.
No.
Yeah. They just looked at the tagline like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just like Will Smith was, safe.
Yeah. Because I definitely I fall into that category. I wasn't paying attention to that, and then like very early on when one of the raids happen, or like when they go out to New Branch, I was like,
no bunch.
I was like, holy crap, did this just happen?
Yeah. Like the chaos was amped up significantly at that time.
Yeah. I've told the story to other people. The first, I believe the first kill that happens, that one was Iggy. And I remember reading it, and I was just like, oh my God. like this is horrible. And then I guess I kind of forgot about it. And then when we did the edit, I read it again, and I was like, Jesus, this is horrible. I was surprised by it, even though I had already read it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I can imagine like it would if you like had a sour taste in your mouth, especially the scene when Wilma stumbles upon one of them being eaten alive. Oh.
Yes. Oh my God.
That was horrifying. I was like, that's gonna scar you and now something else.
Yeah. Yes, that was the much darker version of that scene that I mentioned earlier. That is not what happened originally.
Oh, no.
Okay. You want the fade to black version, or?
No, it was more comical. Like I think they were like strung up like meat, but you didn't really feel
my God. No,
I mean,
I probably would have read that and be like, and then
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. No. Yeah, but these deaths were vivid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was no holding back.
Yeah, I appreciate that because a lot of people will say, and I remember when, for example, with my book, that my editor, she's like, you kind of might want to put a trigger warning if you're gonna hurt a child, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I did fully intend on doing that, but it was kind of funny to see, like, from the perspective of someone else, like, ooh, you might want to warn people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have a trigger warning for that.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, come on, this is about a horror story with kids. You are bound to see some shit.
Yeah.
That was something we talked about a lot. You know, if you were there for the first talk, neither of us outline, so everything is just we write it.
Which I find absolutely fucking amazing, but bonkers at the same time.
It is bonkers. So we don't really set up much. We don't really know the characters. We just kind of create them as we go. And so we did talk a little bit about the setup in that we wanted it to be kids, but we were like, they can't really be kids. Like, we got to make them at least teens or close.
Yeah.
You can't kill off a bunch of 8-year-olds.
Oh, no. That's, yeah.
Yeah. So that was where we landed with, the teens and preteens. And most of them are teens, especially the ones that don't make it.
Yeah.
But and the other part of that is you mentioned it earlier, trying to capture the voice. We also thought we would struggle with trying to write from a child's perspective, a traditional child. So in making them, gifted, we found a way to sort of.
Yeah. It makes them like they look, they think adults, but they're not.
Yeah. Which
I mean, you definitely got that. Yeah.
Yeah, works and adds to it because it's exactly that. They are thinking like adults, but they're kids. So like their decisions are tough and skewed because it's like, one, they're kind of forced to have to grow up in this short amount of time. But then at the same time, it's like, well, no, they're still, and like we get that a lot through Virgil. And I mean, through all of them, but specifically Virgil, you can, especially when we get closer to the end, you can kind of see it's like, oh, no,
he's like he's teetering. And when he finally broke down, I was like, oh, God, it was like, why didn't this happen sooner, actually? It's like, you held on, kid. My goodness. It's like, I probably would have been bowling on and like be in the fetal position already.
Right. Gosh.
And I think with Virgil too, one of the, because I'm pretty sure I created Virgil, and I have a feeling I'm trying to remember back when we did it, but I think it was. I mean, it's been a little while, but I think it was to be in juxtaposition to Wilma, since they're the two youngest. And they're the two that are so far apart, personality-wise. So I think that's somewhat intentional.
I did also appreciate, like, when Wilma was struggling, she would always have to remind herself, like, I'm fucking 11 years old. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, I did appreciate that. I was like, yes, you are kids. Like, don't expect a lot.
For sure.
Totally. Especially, like, when you kind of, like, step back and think that they're running around with squirt guns.
Yes.
Which totally, like, which I going to the Gremlins kind of concept, I appreciate how you did the rules and how they used them, and specifically the squirt guns. I think makes total sense, which was just like so perfect for that. And especially when we get a little bit later too, it makes sense. I'm trying to think. I like and I was trying to remember, in the Gremlins movies, they aren't supposed to eat after midnight, right?
Yes.
So you guys kind of reverse that.
So we reversed all of them. So in the movie, sunlight is what destroys them. Water is what makes them, whatever.
Yeah.
Spawn new gremlins, and then you're not supposed to feed them after midnight. So we reversed it, which is, kind of scarier, because it means they have to be out at night, or when it's, cloudy, they can't be out during the day, because that's when they're at their strongest.
Yeah.
I also loved, I did, it was kind of weird, but at the same time, I really appreciated that you put like the perspective of Widget in there as well.
Yes.
And especially, his perspective of having to be the one who, everything, like, where this is spawned from.
Yeah.
And I also really like the fact that he mentioned, like, this fucking hurts.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this, but when this happens, oh my fucking God, it hurts.
Yeah. I gotta give credit to E for that. He wrote most of the widget scenes where he's talking and reflecting.
I did like it because, like, in the end, like, he felt like this kind of sage old man at the end, and I was like, yeah, that's perfect. I could almost see, like, Mr. Miyagi just walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's because we're getting kind of close to to spoiling some stuff. So we'll let's do the little rundown of where can people find We Are Legend.
Pretty much Amazon currently. And since we're talking about it, let you guys know and let all your listeners know, I have, for the Christmas season, I've made not just We Are Legend, but all of my books, 99 cents for the entire month.
Nice. You should definitely jump on that.
Yeah, just I feel like it's time to give back, and we spend so much time focused on others.
Yes,
during the
and we've
season,
covered your books.
Yeah.
You've covered all your books, and we really enjoyed them. So yeah, this is definitely a good chance and opportunity to grab really good books on a good deal.
Yes.
Yeah. So right, Amazon right now. I've been putting together a website. It'll be there, but it'll probably be through Amazon anyway. So yeah, that's the best place.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. So definitely for listeners, pick it up. 99 cents is amazing. It's a lot of fun. If you like Gremlins, if you like I Am Legend and kind of post-apocalyptic type stuff, this is definitely for you. All right.
They're short and on point.
Yeah. So we are now getting into spoiler talk. So hopefully you are ready for that. And yeah, so I loved, I guess, to go back to Widget and that I think that was such like a I kind of had a feeling when we see the person in the slicker and we see the tufts of fur, but I really liked that slow reveal and just the like fact that you have him still alive and kind of have him being this like really smart person at the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was
for sure.
I like that scene when he realizes like their plan is gonna be catastrophic. I love that. It's like, no, dude, boom, and I'm like, oh no. It's like I like it dawned on me, like, oh, you guys are fucked.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
it's like I at the same time like Wilma, this is a good plan, but oh no, it backfired so badly.
Yeah.
And to put it in a literal sense, even.
Oh, seriously, that was I just like this mass of them. It was just terrifying.
And I want to applaud for you that you, like Matt said at the beginning, like you're not afraid of killing everyone off. And I honestly was not expecting Kate to die.
I know. Well,
I was like, oh, she has the solution. She knows what to do. Bang, bullet in her neck, and I'm like, oh shit.
Well, that's what I was gonna.
I actually had to go back because it happened so quickly that I didn't realize she was dead. I was like, wait, she's dead? No, that can't be it. Went back. Oh, wait. The bullet actually went through. Holy shit.
Yeah. So a little backstory on that, which is kind of fun. I had no idea that was going to happen.
Oh, no.
She was written to be the main character. That's why all of the flashbacks were from her POV.
So E wrote that.
So, well, that's the thing. So E wrote the chapter where you hear the gunshot and then it ends, and he threw it back to me, letting me decide.
Oh my god,
what was going to happen. So, basically, again, most people would think that E is the one killing off the main character, but technically it was me.
He basically just throws it on you.
It was the same. It was the same with Rex at the very end. Like he did the exact same thing. He made it so it could go either way, and I had to decide.
Oh my gosh, that's
Oh my God.
amazing.
I
Oh,
love that, but at the same time, I feel a little bit bad for you.
No, it's fun. It's a blast. I mean, because I wrote it, I was like, well, yeah, it makes sense. She's got to die, and I was like, but where do we go?
yeah,
Where
exactly.
do we go from here? And I feel like the story sort of told us, right? Like we had built up Wilma so much that it made sense for her to kind of take over as the main character, I guess. But I mean, they're all POV characters.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll just everything. What was it, Dammy?
Oh my God!
All of that.
Whose idea was that?
So he introduced the character.
I mean, because it makes sense. This is in a post-apocalyptic setting. There are bound to be cannibals.
Yeah.
Like, who put forth the idea?
Yeah. So
especially using a special needs guy.
Yeah, I think so. He created the character, and he wrote the first few chapters, I believe. And we had talked about it along the way, and I'm pretty sure he said, "Yeah, we're gonna have to kill him at some point." I was like, "I don't know how that's gonna go." I think we're gonna get in trouble for that. But so again, like I think he was planning on doing it, and then I got us to that chapter, and I was like, what are they gonna find? And then once I realized what they were gonna find, I was like, well, he ain't getting out of this scene.
I love the fact that you guys are basically building it up to be like, this is your own adventure story, and after each chapter, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yes, that is absolutely, and that's the fun of it. It's so hard to explain it because I know some people would like lose their minds trying to write a story where they, it's like Mad Libs or whatever. You're picking it up and trying to figure out. So yeah, that's a lot of fun actually.
Well, and I think it adds to what this is because like we said, it's this Walking Dead-esque post-apocalyptic story. So you it adds to that where having characters die and surprising deaths and shocking right at the last minute kind of things like that. It's like, well, of course, it wouldn't be a easy thing for them, and not everyone's gonna survive. So I think it just it adds to the expectancy, and you're just like, oh crap, what just happened? And like you said, maybe you kind of have to go back and be like, did that just happen? It did. And you're like, well, it works for this because it's just things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It adds to the realistic factor to it, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
And we went into it not knowing who was going to survive. I think we said,
is amazing.
Yeah, I think I said I wanted the story to be about 4 of them at the end, but we had no idea which 4 it was going to be.
That is amazing.
Who decided Phoebe should go?
I believe that one was E. I believe, yeah.
That was an awful death. It was
awful, but it was awesome.
Exactly. Yes, I was going to say that. It was awful, but so badass at the end.
Yeah. Yes.
It was so cinematic.
Cinematic.
Yeah. I definitely saw this in my head. I saw this young girl being eaten alive, and she's like, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah. I know. That was great.
I'll be burned to death, and then bitch is like, "No."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that one sucked for me because I really liked Phoebe.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was tough seeing them all kind of go like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
you managed to do it. Even though you had nothing prepared, you managed to create pretty awesome characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, character work. That's really my. Character stories are really my realm. I'm way more interested in character than in plot.
Yes.
Usually, not just what I'm writing, but what I'm reading. So, I definitely every time I created a character was, I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know, E's process for that, and then I just have to figure it out.
You just sent in a chat of like, oh God, please let it leave at least one more chapter.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that first like scene of them at the gas station and food place and everything, I really did not expect that to happen. Just like, holy crap.
Yeah. And I just love it. I just also love that the chaos is just amped up to 1 million whenever the goblins are there. Like especially the first half and the third act of the book, your heart was racing because they were running for their lives. Like that scene when they're trying to reach the waterfall, I was like, oh God, if one of them dies, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And now I can't remember what scene it was, if it was them at the hospital or if it was them somewhere or at the waterfall where the goblins just kind of like climbed over their dead corpses.
Yeah, that was like that was the waterfall where they just kept coming.
Yes, I was just like, it's so like
that it reminded me of World War C.
Yes. Oh God. And especially like you kind of did a really good job again with having Widget think about them and wondering if if they all share the same, like if they're getting dumber.
Yeah.
Like which it was such like interesting like thought and idea of like, are they? And then it makes you think of like even the movie Gremlins and stuff like that, where like if they keep popping up out of people, you're just kind of like, huh, like are they sharing the same thing? And but it just goes into this just crazy madness that they had that you give us at the end. It's just like, it was so neat.
Yeah, it felt also almost like they had like a collective hive mind.
Yeah. I was wondering that.
I don't know that we ever decided it, but we sort of imply it when he talks about the more of them there are, it's diluting the gene pool a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I also found it interesting, like, because, even though you're pulling, a lot from Gremlins, they didn't have the main Gremlin villain, like Stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that because I don't know how that would have worked unless he was kind of like, a cult leader thing or something like that.
Yeah. And then we would have had to have spent time with them. And I don't think we wanted to keep them more, like the thing in the shadows that you don't quite understand. And if you have a character like Stripe, you have to spend time with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think it would have lessened the fear factor to an extent.
Yeah.
I think it definitely helped having them be the other and only getting small glimpses of like, oh, they have a scout, or they're sitting in the shadows, or like they're flicking each other off and stuff like that. I thought that was awesome.
I thought it was hilarious when Wilma flipped them off. No, it was Phoebe that flipped them off and then they flipped them back. I was like, I can see that. This is funny.
Yeah.
That you kept a little smidgen from the humor from the other.
There's a little bit. You have to, right?
You have. I mean, you can't have it completely dark. You have to have a little bit of humor in there because otherwise you're gonna be left like, well, I need to go watch Friends now.
I think Wilma was supposed to be the sort of comic relief in the dark humor, and it just got more dark.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's pretty fun. Her mouth is funny, but it's still it's really funny.
Yeah, a lot of people are not going to connect with that.
Well, and I love because like throughout a lot of it, I kept thinking, and you probably think about this for a lot of these types of stories where you're kind of like, well, why is she even with them? Like she could do better on her own. But then like you do give us that internal monologue at a couple points where she's like, she does know she needs others. And then
like her father hammered it in her, like there's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
Which is funny coming from a prepper, because they always want to be just by themselves.
But even like when we get to the very end, and we won't even need to cover that. I think that's good for people to kind of get to. But like how she sees them she's like, no, I gotta see them as friends, and she's trying better, even though she still thinks of them as a certain way. She's still also thinking like, well, no, they're with me and they're my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I love the fact like she did that like at the end when she kept thinking about Stripes' death.
Yeah.
Because in the story she always called her tits, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, God, why call her tits? Like that's something a guy would say, but okay. But then in the end, when she's still thinking, because she does know that that death like really hurt her in a way, and she like in the end when she's like tits now, and then she screams internally in her own like her name was Eleanor.
Yeah, yes, I love that.
I love that too. I was like, okay, good. Thank you for acknowledging her real name.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Well, this was awesome. Thank you for coming on. This was such a fun story to read.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having me on. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Oh, no problem. So like we said before, spoilers, Amazon, go pick this up. 99 cents this month. This will release on Thursday, so you still have like all month to pick it up. I don't know if you have any new books coming out, or since this sort of just came out, you have a little bit of time.
Yeah. So I have my technically my first solo novel is still. I'm hoping it'll be out next year.
Nice.
I did the novella, which you guys talked about a few months back. But this was amusingly, this is the first book I wrote when I started writing horror, and so far it'll be my fourth release, which is the way it works, I guess.
Right.
So that one's definitely more traditional horror. It's kind of like a cosmic horror noir story.
Nice.
Detectives and cults and old gods and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's called Children of the Dreamer. And yeah, I'm hoping sometime next year. And then E and I are still, we sort of started and then paused the third mashup, which is Hellraiser and Mean Girls.
Oh my God.
Wait, say that again.
So the next mashup is Hellraiser and Mean Girls.
Oh my God. Yes. Fucking yes. Like, please give me.
Holy crap. That sounds amazing.
Like, Mean Girls is one of my guilty pleasures. I love that male film. So yes, please. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait to see how you're going to change that, like use like Valley Girl accent or something like that. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that was actually one I hadn't seen. I'd never seen Mean Girls until that was decided, and I was like, well, I probably should watch it because I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I get the idea, but yeah. So what we kind of landed on is once we started talking about it and working on it a little bit, is it's essentially essentially Heathers with Cenobites.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
I love this.
So
that is amazing.
So not sure when that one will be out, but that is definitely the next one we're planning on working on.
Oh, beautiful. Where can our listeners find you?
For the most part, still on Twitter, still there.
Yeah, right.
Daron K77. I'm on Facebook. Had a lot of people connecting with me there lately. I have an Instagram. I don't really use it much. I probably should. But you can find me on Facebook with just my name, Daron Kappauff, Kappauff. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And Vitlame, what about you?
I'm on Twitter at VitlameS.
Sweet. And I am also on Twitter at BrandenburgDM. And you can find our podcast at Into Staring. The usual review stuff. If you're out listening to us on Apple, give us 5-star review or whatever kind of review. If you want any comments, give us some comments. Whatevs. We're cool. We're pretty lax. And this is Matt saying, keep staring.